Everyone's going to bring in different dishes, have their own little thing. We're going to be doing a Friendsgiving. So appreciate you guys jumping on today. You guys know the drill, right? Appreciate someone said they're coming from Dubai. Love it. It was just there in Abu Dhabi. I'm going to come back and definitely will make my way to Dubai. So appreciate y'all jumping on. We have a bunch of questions. You guys submitted a ton this time, a ton of questions that we'll fire through, but ask below because we're gonna try and answer them as many as humanly possible throughout this entire live, both Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Wherever you're able to join from, appreciate you and appreciate your time. And feel free to ask anything. It's completely open. Doesn't need to even be keto related. Happy to answer any questions at all that I can help with. So with that being said, let's do it.
What's more important to track, ketones or glucose?
Net, I would be more concerned with hemoglobin A1C. I wouldn't even be as concerned with ketones, glucose. But hemoglobin A1C is basically a longer term marker of like insulin resistance, insulin sensitivity. Ketones, here's the thing about ketones. The longer you're on a ketogenic diet, the longer you're adapted, you're more likely going to have lower amounts of ketones. So don't chase ketones, chase the results. I think that's one of the things I talk about all the time. I actually was just on Facebook talking with a friend of mine, Marty Kendall, was talking about, hey, listen, people are always like, I want to get to 1 or 2 or 3 millimoles. Chase the result. Don't chase the ketones in that regard. So that's one of the biggest aspects. But yes, you want to make sure your glucose is well regulated. Fasting glucose is very important, and postprandial. And so one of the things we're going to be introducing in 2019 to all of your favorite keto companies is a ketogenic certified program where they can opt in to go through a ketogenic certified program where we're going to be actually testing their product. I actually just brought a continuous glucose monitor that I'm going to hook up to myself tomorrow. We'll post all about it on YouTube. But I'm going to be hooking myself up, but we're also going to be testing glucose and ketones on these products to make sure they're legitimately ketogenic and not just like, hey, this actually spikes your blood sugar a ton. So I think both are important. It's where you're at, what your goal is. Though that's ultimately what dictates the answer to that question.
Best way to adapt your body to keto?
Fastest ways to adapt your body to keto, right? Supplement with electrolytes. I think that's very important. Intermittent fast. That helps deplete liver glycogen stores, which will allow you to adapt faster. And most importantly, workout. Some type of movement, whether that's walking, high-intensity interval training. I'm a big fan of high-intensity interval training. One of the studies that we did in our laboratory was we basically took people and we had them do high-intensity interval training. And high-intensity interval training, if you haven't, go check out our YouTube channel. We're putting a lot of amazing content on the YouTube channel lately. But make sure you go check out the YouTube channel because we have a whole video talking about high-intensity interval training, how to do it properly, how to do it effectively. But high-intensity interval training can deplete your glycogen stores drastically and very quickly. For those of you who know what and have seen some and followed along some of what our lab has done over the last several years, we talk about a Wingate bike. Wingates are our form of high-intensity interval training. They deplete glycogen very, very fast.
What are the best cooking oils?
Best cooking, I mean, obviously you want to stay away from vegetable oils, right? They oxidize very easily. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of like coconut oil, but again, you need to be careful with how high you're cooking. So heat temperature will matter. Butter is a great source. Ghee is probably even better. Avocado oil, I'm a big fan of. I've been using a lot of that lately. So just keep it in context. Look at the point at which some of these oils start to oxidize. Make sure you're staying under that, and then try and stay away from vegetable oils as much as humanly possible.
Is it metabolically safe to drink ketones and eat carbohydrates simultaneously?
Metabolically safe? Yes. Unless there's some underlying condition. For most people, wouldn't be a problem. If you think about it, people who are eating a carbohydrate-based diet, CrossFit athletes, say you're a CrossFit athlete, and you're eating a carbohydrate-based diet, but then you work out, you're going to be in a state of ketosis. Like these guys put themselves through so much, their bodies are likely in a state of ketosis as it is. Meaning CrossFit athletes, people that work out really, really hard. It's not, I don't think there's some magical benefit to consuming exogenous ketones and eating a Big Mac and a large fry. I don't think there's a magical benefit to that. But to be not necessarily ketogenic and still supplementing, I think there's definitely advantages and potential benefits of doing so.
What did keto do for you that was life-changing and kind of made you have a passion for it?
Really great question. Here's the thing. For me, it wasn't this big weight loss transformation, right? I have a lot of great friends. One of my greatest friends, especially on social media, is Suzanne Ryan, right? Keto Karma. If you don't follow her, make sure you go check it out. Her weight loss transformation is insane, right? Absolutely insane. She was just on Dr. Oz, like sharing her story on Dr. Oz. Here's the thing. Mine wasn't a huge weight transformation. My family has struggled with weight their entire lives. My brother, a lot of my family members. And so for me, it was a personal mission of how do I set out to help them and finding that alternatives that they can't handle carbohydrates the same way I used to be able to handle carbohydrates. But ultimately, my change and my point came when I started seeing like the neurological benefits, right? I felt better. Like for me, it's about how do I optimize my capacity as much as humanly possible throughout the day, right? And I don't take very many stimulants. I don't do like, what is it? What is that medication they give for people with ADHD? Ritalin. I don't take any of that. Adderall, that's it. Adderall, stuff like that. Like, don't do that. How do I optimize brain function throughout the entire day? And so for me, starting incorporating in intermittent fasting, being on a ketogenic diet, it was kind of like a different level, right? I was able to tap into a different level and be able to not be like, damn, when's this meeting going to end because I got to go get my oatmeal. It was like, cool, I can go for another 2 hours, crank through this and knock out a project without having to worry about, oh my gosh, where's my granola bar? Where's my protein shake? Where's my weight gainer shake? All that stuff. So for me, it was a lot of the mental, cognitive components of things.
So kind of going off that, how much protein do you need per day during weight loss to keep you from losing lean muscle mass?
Another good question. On a ketogenic diet or not?
On a ketogenic.
On a ketogenic diet. So one of the things that we know about a ketogenic diet is very muscle sparing, right? It spares a lot of muscle tissue. But I caution people a lot, especially people who are dieting, you need to make sure you're getting in enough protein, right? You need to make sure you're getting in enough so that way you don't have adverse effects. Women especially, you start to see hair fall out. You start to see what's called a keto rash on some people when they're protein deficient. I would say at absolute minimum, you want to get in 1 gram per kilogram, right? So for me, I'm 80 kilograms roughly, give or take, depending upon if I had a lot of ice cream the night before or not. It depends, or if I hit a buffet and I didn't. If I'm 80 kilograms, at minimum, I need to be getting in 80 grams of protein per day. I think that's a safe bet. I don't think there's a lot of data showing like, hey, having that amount is going to spill over and have any negative effects. I don't think that's the case. But I would say at minimum 1 gram per kilogram.
What is your stance on dairy and sugar substitutes?
Dairy and sugar substitutes. Oh, Scooter's losing his mind. Come here.
Hey, what you want? Come here.
I don't know if y'all can hear Scooter. Scoot the cat up. Come here. Say hi to everyone. Come here.
Oh, I'm super excited.
He's super excited for the live. Oh, say hi. Yeah. This is Scooter. Oh, he's the one that was barking in the background. I'll talk about Scooter in a second. But to answer that person's question, dairy and
sugar substitutes.
Dairy, some people have a sensitivity to dairy, right? It tends to be the people who have a sensitivity to gluten as well. Like a lot of times dairy can cause inflammation or things that they don't love. But dairy can be dairy can be great. There's advantages to dairy. There's a lot of benefits of having dairy, like whey protein. There's a ton of benefits. with it. But some people are extremely sensitive to it, so they need to be careful about it. So that's one of the things to just keep in mind. Same thing with sugar substitutes. I would have to dive in individually to each one of them. Like sucralose, aspartame, saccharin. Saccharin I'd avoid like the absolute plague. Absolutely avoid it. Sucralose and aspartame, you can make an argument, right? Is it something that I suggest consuming all the time? Absolutely not. What are you doing? Is it something I suggest consuming all the time? No. Is it something that if you have diet soda once a week or occasionally, is it going to kill you? Absolutely not. So it's just keeping things in context, right? So sometimes if I'm making a recipe and I'm like, damn, this stevia and erythritol isn't doing it, like, will I throw in a little bit of sucralose? Sure. But so will I say, oh, you know what, I'm just gonna make it without it? It depends. It's all context dependent. So net doesn't matter. In small amounts, maybe, but just keep it in context, right? Like I love erythritol. I love using stevia. I love using allulose. He wants to go down. So I'll just introduce Scoot. If you guys don't know, this is my guy, Scoot the Keto Pup. Make sure you give him a follow on Instagram. We post about his life. As you can notice, he's missing a leg. So long story short, I adopted this guy the day after my birthday this year. So I've only had him for like 4 months. But he has been an absolute godsend to me. He was in a foster home, and he was fed poorly, treated poorly before I adopted him. His collar was actually embedded in his neck because they had left him outside, and it had grown over his skin. And on top of that, when he finally broke away to try and escape, somewhere in the process, whether it was during or throughout the journey, he broke his front right leg and was like hobbling around on it. And eventually, like when they found him, it had been broken for so long that the muscles inside of his leg had died. So they had to amputate it. So he's my hero. He's a huge source of inspiration for me every single day, but I love him. He's just been an absolute godsend to my life. But he is keto. One of the interesting aspects about this, for those of you that may be wondering that are huge animal lovers, I actually switched him when I first got him, put him on a ketogenic diet. But after my podcast with Victoria Adelis, or Victoria Field now, if you guys haven't checked that out, make sure you go check out What the Fat. We talk all about keto for pets. I've just recently switched him to raw, and he like loves it. I was very, very nervous about it. I was very nervous about going raw because I'm like, oh, but like all the bacteria, stuff like that. I was super worried about it, but like he's absolutely crushing it. Loves the food. I actually give him Valiant. Right now I'm like trying out Valiant. It's expensive. It's definitely pricey, but it makes my life a heck of a lot easier. Eventually I'd like to get to a point where I'm just like buying it on my own, but I've just been traveling so much that it was easy for me to just get these patties from Valiant Pet and just break it up, put it in his bowl, and he devours it, absolutely devours it. So he's been amazing, huge source of inspiration. So I apologize. He was getting jealous. He wanted to say hi. So I'm glad he got to come in and say hi to y'all. So I appreciate it. Let's get back.
When I hit my goal weight, how do I implement maintenance into my lifestyle?
Ultimately, that's the ideal spot, right? That's where I'm at. Right? I'm not trying to like put on a ton of weight or muscle mass. I hate using weight. I'm not trying to put on a ton of muscle. I'm not trying to lose a ton of fat mass. Right now, I'm more at the maintenance phase. It's find the training program, find the nutritional regimen. Like if you're like, hey, this is what I typically eat on a daily basis. These are the calories roughly that I tend to consume. Stay there, right? Don't have any huge fluctuations. One of the things we'll address, I'll address it here, and then I might pop in and do an Instagram Live next week and Facebook Live for y'all when my family's coming in. My family's coming into town Sunday, and they're going to be here for the whole week. I'm having them here at my house, so that'll be exciting. I'm super excited to see all of them and have them here and spoil them and show them all Tampa. But one of the things I'll address before we end, we'll talk about going into the holiday, right? Thanksgiving, what to do, what not to do, all of these different things. But if you're at maintenance, just keep it going.
It is a fact that our bodies do not need carbohydrates, but in fact, we produce just what we need naturally.
That's the question?
That's the question.
Okay. There is no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. I'll say that. There's like your body can function off protein and fat, period. There's no such thing. Yes, your body can make what it needs, 100%. Now, does that mean that carbs are the devil? No, it doesn't mean that. It means that carbs are a tool. For someone whose goal is, hey, let's solely focus on performance, utilizing carbohydrates as a tool can be a great attribute, right? I don't demonize carbohydrates. I don't demonize fruit. I think there's benefits of it all, but in context, right? So yes, there is no such essential thing as a carbohydrate. There is no essential carbohydrate. You do need fat and protein. You can't live without them. But in the same context, it doesn't mean that like go zero carb for the rest of your life. Like you have to have sustainability, right? You want to live, if you're living in today's society, like I'm going to try a little bit of this and it might have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 grams of carbohydrates with some fiber. Trust me, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. What else?
Do you recommend keto when someone's sick?
If someone's sick, one of the things that helps boost the immune system tremendously is fasting. So like for me, I was just sick. We had flown back on a red eye on Friday. I had gotten back to Tampa on Saturday morning at 6 a.m. and I felt like trash. Like I didn't sleep much. It was a Frontier plane. Not to call out Frontier, but Frontier, you need to get bigger seats. It was brutal, man. It was brutal. Tough, but they're the only ones that had the only direct from Vegas to Tampa. And so that was tough. So I felt like trash all day Saturday. I got sick. My immune system was down, but I just fasted. I took glutamine, took some high dose vitamin C. I took some exogenous ketones, took some collagen, and just battled it. Now I'm all right. So.
What would you say has been your greatest accomplishment?
I don't like this. I don't know if I have one greatest accomplishment. I look at it from a perspective of like every day I get up and my greatest accomplishment is living my best and most fulfilled life every day. What does that mean? It means I'm on here hopefully helping some other person. For me, at the end of the day, if I can go home when I'm brushing my teeth at the end of the night, if I can look myself in the mirror and say, you put out your best effort today and you did exactly what you're trying to do, and you're put on this world to do, that's the ultimate win for me. So for me, it's like daily wins. I have so many amazing daily wins that it wasn't publishing a book or winning a national championship. Like those are all great, but that's all part of the bigger piece of like, micro, I'm so focused on like just winning each day rather than let me try and win and at the long game. Like my goal is how do I leave a legacy, and that legacy is left by winning each day and helping and putting out, being authentic, being transparent, and ultimately serving others. So that's my big wins.
I've heard from some doctors that the keto diet long-term can affect negatively the kidney function. Is this true?
There's no data that long-term ketogenic diets would negatively impact kidney function. There's no direct data showing that, hey, this is going to have negative impacts. What will negatively affect kidney function is dehydration. So a lot of times where people make that correlation is, okay, cool, I'm on a ketogenic diet. You tend to have excrete out, you tend to go to the bathroom more, right? So you're excreting out minerals like sodium and potassium and magnesium, and very few people supplement effectively with those to incorporate them in. It's completely possible to do it through whole foods itself, but very few people do that. So if you supplement right, you stay hydrated, no problems at all with kidney function. The same thing goes with any type of intervention that you're going on. If you aren't hydrated, that's where you run into the issues.
What tips do you have on staying hydrated and avoiding the headache?
tips on staying hydrated. Don't listen to Sprite where they say obey your thirst. Don't do that. Drink before you're thirsty. I think that's very, very important. By the time you're thirsty, you're already 2 to 5% dehydrated. Think about that. And then you start to see complications. I actually just talked about this with Christine Moore, Jimmy Moore's wife. She talks about the importance of hydration in their new book. And I was like, wow, that's a really important piece that a lot of people leave out and forget about. But she talks about tips. One of the best ways to monitor hydration status, I'm going to be real with y'all real quick. Best way is when you're going to the bathroom, look at it and say, cool, is this light like lemonade? That's what you're aiming for. You don't want it to be crystal clear white. That means you're probably overhydrated. You also don't want it to be orange or anything that's close to that. Like light like lemonade, that's the ultimate goal.
Can drinking exogenous ketones more than once per day still be beneficial?
Absolutely. Can drinking exogenous ketones more than once per day be beneficial? Sure. It's all context dependent. It's all what's the goal, what's the outcome. If you're drinking ketones twice per day and then you're only having one meal, that's great. If you're drinking ketones twice per day and you're having a Big Mac for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, it's likely not going to and you're sitting all day and you're not changing anything about your lifestyle habits and you're just eating it with a large fry, it's not going to be beneficial. There's not a lot of benefit there beyond just, hey, here's ketones. So.
Supplements you take on top of the keto lifestyle?
My supplement regimen. I used to be one of those guys that like my dad and my mom would look at me and be like, what the hell's wrong with you? Because I used to have so many pills in a bottle and like I would always travel with it, do all this stuff. And like I've gotten far past those times. But my supplement regimen now is very, very simple. I supplement daily with berberine. I definitely do berberine every day, usually with before dinner. That's usually my main meal. I definitely do lysine. I think there's a lot of benefit. I think the benefits of lysine, I might have to do a YouTube video of this because I need to do more research myself and it'll force me to do more research. But I think there's a ton of benefits to lysine that are far overlooked. So I literally take like 2 to 4 grams of lysine per day. It's a ketogenic amino acid. There's a lot of potential other benefits. It's antimicrobial, all these different benefits, but lysine itself, I don't know why I supplement 2 to 4 grams per day. With it, I think it's definitely not going to negatively impact. If not, it'll further enhance ketosis. Sometimes I'll do MCT oil powder. I guess you could look at that as a supplement. Sometimes I'll do whey protein powder. I do exogenous ketones. I'll take exogenous ketones as like a pre-workout, or if I'm not working out, like as just in general throughout the day. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty basic. I don't drink Starbucks Frappuccinos, but not that type of basic. But I'm pretty basic in my approach of like, hey, let's keep it simple, right? The KISS method, right? Keep it simple, stupid. That's the type of approach that I do. So,
what's your take on glucose ketone index?
I think it's good, right? It depends on what you're utilizing it for. I think it's good for therapeutic purposes. Right now, that's really where it's being studied, or really where it's been shown. But basically, it's a measure, for those of you who don't know what GKI is, glucose ketone index. You take your glucose measurement, your ketone measurement, and there's I think you divide one by the other, and you get this number. And there's a certain range that's supposedly more beneficial, and they're utilizing it in more like epileptic or cancer modalities. Like those are the research studies that are using the GKI. I think overall, if your goal is just general health, wellness, body composition, like I wouldn't get so hung up on the number of like, oh my gosh, I need to calculate this. If I'm out of this GKI index, like I'm terrible, I'm failing, or if I'm in it, I'm the best. Like, don't get hung up on the number. It's like macro, it matters for a small modality, but if you're in general applying the principles that we always talk about, you'll be fine.
What's your secret sauce? 3 to 5 leadership principles that help you discover and execute kind of your success today.
3 to 5 secret sauce. I don't like to have secret sauce because I like to share everything with everyone. Perspective, number one, I think that's one of the biggest aspects. Understanding that you woke up today and someone else didn't. I wake up every single day with gratitude. I guess you can say that's one and the same. Is my perspective is fulfilled by gratitude. I'm so grateful to just be in the moment, to be alive, that it's unbelievable how people lose that sense of perspective. And that's ultimately what's allowed me to drive and continue to do what I do on a daily basis, and encourages me to continue to do more. So perspective and gratitude. Be here now. I think that's one of the other aspects that I've tried to develop. It's a work in progress, right? I don't think I'm amazing at it, but like if I'm fully committed to something, like being present in the moment is such a powerful tool. I just talked about this with Danny Vega. Every time he's with his kids, like he's present, right? If I'm on the phone with my mom, which I call my mom every day when I'm on my way home from, I almost said school. I call my mom every day when I'm on my way home from work, just catch up, touch base, see what's up with her, just checking in. But when I get home, like I won't get out of the car and go inside of the house until I'm off of the phone. Like as crazy as this is, but I know I'm going to take this habit and translate it over to when I have kids, is like, I'm all about being present in the moment. Like, I know on the other side of that door, Scooter is waiting with his tail wagging for me to be present as soon as I walk in the door. And the minute I walk in and I'm on a phone and I'm like, dude, stop barking, like get away from me. Like, what type of message is that send to him? So I try and take that same principle and apply it to everything in life. And like, I value people's time so much that I'm like, hey, if you're going to give me everything that you have, I'm going to give you a ton more. Like, I'm going to try and give you way more than you can give me, because I just appreciate your time so much. So being present now. And then the last one I would say is surround yourself with the right people. I think sometimes people get trapped in a situation where someone, whether it's their family member, friend, colleague, are pulling them down, giving them shitty information and saying, hey, pulling them down, dragging them down, saying you're not good enough, or that's the wrong decision, or you're going to regret it. Like, just get that person out of your life and move on. I think that's one of the biggest things. Is the only way I've been able to get to the point, and I don't even know what that is, like just getting to the point of where I am now, is because of the people around me. Like, I wouldn't be able to do this without an amazing team. I wouldn't be able to have done what I've done thus far without people pulling me to be at their level, and surrounding myself with people who I want to be around versus people that I'm battling against, trying to fight, trying to be like, no, get the negativity out, get that stuff out of my life. Those are the people like you don't want to be around. Surround yourself with people that are positive, inspiring, bringing you up, causing you to be a better person overall, period. Those, I think, are 3 great tips for anyone, whether on a ketogenic diet or not, to implement and hopefully incorporate into your life.
Parkinson's and keto benefits.
Parkinson's and keto. One of the things that I talk about a lot is I'm super fascinated with the neurological benefits of being in a state of ketosis. I think there's a ton yet to be explored for Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, traumatic brain injury. I can go on and on about that, but like neurological conditions. One of the things, in short, that we see with Parkinson's is a lot of it is an energy deficit problem. We've done research or case studies at our laboratory where we've given individuals with Parkinson's just a dose, like one serving of exogenous ketones, and seen a drastic difference in cognitive performance. Drastic difference. And so what that's telling us is it's an energy, it's a fuel problem. And so same thing with Alzheimer's, right? They're referring to Alzheimer's as type 3 diabetes. It's a fuel problem. In essence, the receptors that are able to take up and utilize glucose in the brain are starting to become impaired. They're resistant to that same bolus that you've been giving it over and over and over again. We talk about this at lengths inside of the Ketogenic Bible, but it's becoming insulin resistant. Your brain is becoming insulin resistant. But if you look at the receptors that take up and utilize ketones, they're still there. They're still available. So I'd like to see a ton more research on it. The studies, the preliminary studies that we're doing in our laboratory, several research laboratories are doing across the world, are extremely promising for some of these ketogenic therapies and neurological conditions.
What's your take on Sacrum?
I think it's the worst of them all, right? I think it's the absolute worst of them all. I don't. First off, I don't. Well, let me call. I'm going to call them out right now. But
I knew it was coming. I knew it.
I'll just give you guys a little quick story because we keep it real in here. So we're shopping at KetoCon last year, and we're talking about, and we were like, hey, let's try and shoot this video inside of the store, and we were gonna like highlight it and talk all about the different sweeteners. And Paul's like, yeah, man, like Sweet and Low's my favorite, and I was like, what? I was like, dude, like you are the only human being I know that's like, man, I love Sweet and Low. It's like, what? Like I never heard someone say the pink packet. If you guys don't know what Sweet and Low is,
you planned this. That's why you wore that shirt.
It's the pink packet. I'm gonna rip this out because I hate it. The pink packet. It's the worst it's the worst tasting. And I don't even know why it's still like that one. If you're ever concerned about any negative effects of artificial sweeteners, like saccharin is the absolute worst out of any of them. So sweet, like I don't even know why they carry Sweet and Lows at restaurants anymore. Like the pink packet should just be banned. Like might have to create a campaign, like ban the pink packets, like or put like allulose in pink packets, or put like a different stevia in pink packets, but get rid of the saccharin, like get it out of there.
The whole marketing campaign just behind that.
Yeah.
Do you try to get protein or fat in first during the day, or even them out each meal? I typically am protein heavy early and get fats later. What are your thoughts?
You know, I try and eat whole foods as much as possible. Like I don't. I guess it's kind of a mixture. Like I'm trying to think about it because this is a good question. I would say I wouldn't like try and be like, oh, I only eat my protein in the morning and then fat at night. I would say like, cool, if I'm eating a steak for lunch, or say I'm going out to a business dinner for lunch, I might throw a little bit of butter on it for my lunch meal. So I have I have a good amount of protein, but I also have some fat with it. I like mixing the two rather than isolating it and going, hey, I'm just gonna have a straight protein shake and I'm gonna have straight butter in my coffee. I'd rather say, hey, I'm gonna have a steak with butter on it or ghee on it, or a steak and avocado, whatever that may be. I like the whole foods approach of like, hey, let's blend the two together and not just isolate them out.
Has the winner of the Metabolic Health Summit ticket already been picked? You might have missed it.
Yes, we did pick it. So that's a good question because every week we're doing giveaways. Every single week I've committed to be like, you know what? I love giving. It's one of the best gifts for me of life is being able to give back. So every week we do a different giveaway. So make sure you're tuned in on Instagram and Facebook to the weekly giveaways. We gave away a ticket to the Metabolic Health Summit. Last week we gave away 3 5-minute journals. They're my favorite thing to do in the morning. So 3 people are going to be getting those out with a handwritten note this week. This week, live right now, is 4 people. You and someone that you tag on the post. If you go to my Instagram or Facebook right now, you'll see a picture of the Headspace app. It's one of the best meditation apps that I utilize myself. And I'm buying it. They're not giving this away. Like I'm buying it because I think it's so important. And that's why it's called Dr. Ryan's Favorite Things. Like I'm buying for 1 month membership to try out this app because I think it's so powerful. And then if you want to continue on, you can continue on. If you're like, this is awful, I can't meditate, that's fine. But it's just Dr. Ryan's Favorite Things. I just want to expose you guys to some of my favorite stuff and give you free stuff and give you the opportunity to win prizes and interact and engage and talk to each other, build this tribe up, because I think it's so powerful. So this week, make sure you don't forget to enter. If you're into meditation or if you've ever heard of the Headspace app, I'm a huge fan of it. I love it. So I'm going to gift it to 4 other people. So I'm super excited. That'll close at the end of this week. So make sure you don't miss out on it.
Going off that, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Oh, y'all are killing me. My favorite flavor of ice cream. Ultimately, it depends on the type of ice cream, right? So I'll say this. The ones that I've had, so I'll give you examples of ones that, and again, I think it's important, like if you're making your own ice cream, it's very easy to do with like avocado ice cream and things like that. Luckily, there's a place in Tampa that is called Delights. It's a low carb, low calorie ice cream. The way they get it to be ice cream is they whip it. So it's so much air in it that it's so much volume for like an entire cup is only 50 calories. It's insane. But their whipping process is what adds the volume. It's the same thing I talk about all the time with like, hey, I'm going to go have a shake. When you blend a shake, that's why when you put a shake in a blender, like say I were to take the same amount of liquid that's in here right now, and I put it into a blender, it might be this big rather than this big. So you're adding in a ton of air that changes the dynamic. So very, very different dynamic for that. What was the question?
Favorite ice cream.
Oh gosh, you guys got me hung up on ice cream. I was like salivating over here. So delights. My favorite ice cream is Elvis sandwich. They make up. Isn't it peanut butter chocolate banana? I mean, it's Elvis sandwich, but I'm pretty sure that's like what an Elvis sandwich is. It's just so good. If any of y'all, well, you know what we'll do this sometime in 2019. At some point in 2019, I'll make this promise right here, right now, so you guys can hold me to it. At some point in 2019, we'll put on an event in Tampa, whether it's a conference, whether it's a meetup, whether it's a dinner that like I'll host and we can go out to one of my favorite restaurants in Tampa. But I'll invite a selective group. I'll put it out there. But the first people that come, I don't know when this is going to be, sometime middle to late of 2019. But I promise you, I will get y'all delights so you guys can experience the love that I have for delights. All the people that come to that event, and we'll have fun in Tampa. So we might have to put together an event or something where we bring everyone into town, and I'd love to show you guys all around. But that's my favorite one. The other one I also eat is like Killer Way came out. They sent me a like exclusive one. It was ridiculous. It was peanut butter chocolate bacon. That was like absolutely insane. Another one, they use inulin in it, which is good, but like my stomach doesn't handle prebiotic fibers very good. And the other one I have is like Enlightened occasionally. Occasionally I'll do Enlightened if like someone has it, or I'll just try a little bit. The reason why I trust Enlightened is they're using a legitimate fiber. One of very few who's using a legitimate fiber. I'm actually gonna do a continuous glucose monitor to check that out starting tomorrow. So we'll see.
How many papers do you have published?
So how many papers do I have published? I think if you go on my ResearchGate, somewhere around 80 papers, 70 or 80 papers. Yeah, we published a lot. If you count abstracts, I have over 100. So we presented at multiple different things, so multiple different events. I would say if you're counting papers, abstracts, and book chapters, over 100. So check out ResearchGate.
And now for the holidays, something that's specific. I know you wanted to address that as kind of the last thing.
Someone asked, are you using a Dexcom G6? Yes, that's what I'm using. It was a pain in the butt to get. I had to go through so many things, and it's ridiculously expensive. Stupid expensive. But I wanted to do it. I want to be able to track. I want to be able to test foods. I want to be able to like share with you guys some of my results. So I'll find out and let you guys know.
Hi, Dr. Lowery. Thanksgiving right around the corner. If there was one dish you had to choose not to eat, which one would it be to stay more in keto?
If there's one dish I had to choose to eat,
not to eat,
that wasn't keto. Or that was keto.
That wasn't keto. So kind of to avoid.
If there's one thing you want to, like for me, growing up, my mom and my aunt make the best mashed potatoes. Best. One of the reasons is the way they make their mashed potatoes, it's like a pound of potatoes. But on top of that, they throw in like 4 sticks of butter, cream cheese, and like heavy cream, right? It's like death in a ball at the end. It's so good, so creamy. It's insane. Avoid that. Because not only does it have a ridiculous amount of carbs, it has a ridiculous amount of fat with it as well. Not that fat's bad, but when you combine high amounts of fat, high amounts of carbohydrates, that problem arises. So avoid the potatoes or like the yams. Sometimes people make yams in the sauce, like I don't know if it's syrup or sauce, but it's just like a sugar fest. And again, there's fat in there because most people put butter in their yams if they want them to taste really dang good. And then Just avoid it. So this year, I'll share with you guys. I'll bring you guys in. I'm gonna have 14 people here for Thanksgiving. It's gonna be crazy. But my mom and aunt are like definitely gonna be making the dang potatoes. But I'm gonna be making mashed cauliflower as an alternative. We're gonna have desserts that are not keto friendly, some that are keto friendly. I'm not gonna stress out about it and freak out about it, but I'm gonna say, you know what? Like if there's something that my mom makes and I'm going to try and I'm going to enjoy, I'm going to be like, sure, that's great. I'll try it. Don't stress out about it, right? Don't freak out about it. Just don't go over the deep end and be like, cool, I'm going to have a pound of mashed potatoes and yams and all of these desserts. And I've been keto every single day. Probably not a good idea. Probably not a good idea.
And I know you said you want to talk about going into the holidays. I'm not sure if you want to finish with that.
Cool. Yeah, I'll finish going to the holidays. Someone asked Fit Bra 3. Do you think people are asking about the HMB study? So if you haven't, make sure you check out the video that we just put up on YouTube, thoroughly addressing that. I think a lot of times people get wrapped up in the minutia and people misunderstand context. It's one of the challenges of doing research is people don't actually know how to interpret research. And then you hear from someone that's an authority and they're like, oh my gosh, this is wrong. This is better than steroids, or this is something else. And it's like, well, actually, if you looked at the research, it's not. You just need someone to explain that. So I brought on a good friend of mine, Dr. Jacob Wilson, and he thoroughly goes through that study and talks about the results. So if you can, go check out the last video on YouTube that we had that addressed that very study at length. So that's a huge, huge relief for some people. I know some people were stressed about that, asking about it. Hopefully that helps answer any and all questions that you guys have.
Going into the holiday.
Last thing, guys, appreciate y'all tuning in. Here's the thing, going into the holiday, look at alternatives, right? Look at all the different alternatives. Is the stuffing recipe up on the website?
Yes.
So there's on ketogenic.com, there's a stuffing recipe that is, as what my good friend and brother Jacob Wilson would say, is sick. Like he says it all the time. He's like, that's sick. This stuffing recipe is like unbelievable and it's free. You can go on the recipe section, go get it. But if you want to, it was one of the things that I used to stress out about all the time. Like my mom makes some bad stuffing, right? It's insane. But this stuffing literally, I think, trumps her stuffing. Don't tell her, but she made this one, so it's okay to say that her new version that's keto friendly trumps her non-keto version. But just find alternatives. Start planning now. At the same time, while you're finding alternatives to pecan pie, my good friend and she's doing a ton of amazing stuff, and she makes treats for us all the time and is helping us out. Very, very smart. Chelsea, she made a pecan pie that's like stupid. I'm gonna ask her to make one for Thanksgiving because it's just absolutely insane. And I would have never in a million years known that it was not keto. It was keto, that it didn't have a ton of sugar in it. So there's always alternatives. Find alternatives. You can go on ketogenic.com. There's a million different ways to do it. Turkey's keto. You can do ham without like the sweetened sauce. That's keto. Mashed cauliflower, vegetables, keto stuffing, amazing. And then desserts, keto-fy them, right? The same token, while I'm saying keto-fy it, also like it's about family. There's more than just like, hey, I'm trying to unless you're like competing for a show or something, like if your great grandmother or your grandmother made something and she's going to be heartbroken because you didn't try it, but you're like, no, that Ryan guy told me that like I can't touch a carb on Thanksgiving. Don't do that, right? Don't do that. Like try it. Like try grandma's damn cake. Because at the end of the day, that matters. Net, that matters more than you freaking out that and grandma being upset with you and you having regret later on that you were mad at grandma and grandma was mad at you. Like net, try it, right? Don't be like, have fun. The importance of Thanksgiving is to truly understand what the holiday is supposed to be about spending time with friends, loved ones, and truly being grateful and thankful for the food that's on your plate, for the people that you're with, the company you're with. Those are the things that matter. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. I just saw someone jumped in from the UK. Someone on YouTube jumped in from Norway. Like, y'all are amazing. I love that this message is getting out to so many people, and I appreciate you guys sharing it, because ultimately we're in this together. This is the tribe. This is what we're going to do, and hopefully go out and help so many people. So with that being said, guys, I'll jump on sometime next week with the fam. I'm recording podcasts with them early next week, but I'll jump on. I'll bring you guys through, show you all of our Thanksgiving fun festivities. But I appreciate you guys jumping on. Continue to interact. Make sure you don't forget to go enter in that giveaway if you're interested in the Headspace or meditation app, and you want to not only get it for yourself, but give the gift of giving it to others. We're going to have a lot more centered around that theme coming up very soon, of like the power of giving to others. I'm going to push that going into the holiday season. But with that being said, guys, make sure you continue to interact. If you want any more information on keto, the ultimate resource is going to be ketogenic.com. Make sure you're checking that out. Tons of new articles, tons of new information, recipes, a lot of new and very, very exciting stuff coming in 2019, early 2019. So with that being said, guys, as always, grateful and thankful for each and every one of you. Make positivity louder. We talk about that all the time, and hope you all have an amazing day. Love you.